Is he musical?
Are you kidding me? He's incredibly musical. All this he chose. He loves classical music.
You won't believe what Janet Jackson's son looks like today. Fans are shocked by his resemblance to a music legend. From a billionaire father to a superstar mother, Issa Almana is growing up in two completely different worlds. Janet left her marriage just months after giving birth, but why? And what's really happening with her son behind the scenes? Could Issa be the next Jackson star, or will he stay hidden forever? Stay tuned. You don't want to miss this. The Secret Love Story. It all began at a fancy event in Dubai where the most powerful people in the world got together. This was different from other situations Janet Jackson had been in the past. In the middle of the flashing cameras and billion-dollar deals, Janet met Wissam Almana, a strong Qatari businessman who was calm but in charge. Sparks flew right away. In contrast to her other relationships, she kept this one from everyone. There were no news stories or public appearances, just a deep private relationship that turned serious very quickly. Then the shocking news came out. Janet Jackson was married. It wasn't covered at all by the media. The world thought there would be a fancy wedding with lots of famous people, but there wasn't one. In 2012, Janet and Wissam said their vows in a small, private wedding, away from the press and Hollywood rumors. It was a surprise to everyone. Fans were shocked. Why would a famous person from around the world disappear into the background for a man that no one knew? Soon the answer was clear. Janet left everything behind. She left the music business, the spotlight, and even her style of wearing bright clothes when she went to London. There were no longer any edgy outfits, high-energy shows, or world trips. She chose to live a simpler, more traditional life instead. It was shocking how things changed. Some of her friends praised how hard she worked, while others said she was changing too much and too quickly. Then reports spread that Janet had become a Muslim. Insiders said she had fully joined Wissam's world and taken on all of his beliefs, values, and customs. Even though she never said for sure, the way she changed her life said a lot. She was seen in public wearing modest clothes and covering her hair. She was also staying away from the theater business, which she used to run. It was very different from the Janet Jackson everyone knew, but there were cracks showing behind all the wealth and beauty. Wissam wasn't just a rich man. He was also a man who liked being in charge. Because he was rich, he could change the world around him. Now Janet was a part of that world. It looked like love at first. He showered her with gifts, private jets, and a way of life that most people could only dream of. There were, however, soon rumors of strict rules and limits. Sources said Wissam had a lot of control over Janet's job, clothing, and public appearances. Very rarely did she go out without his saying okay. It was said that his standards affected even how she performed. This was a big change for a woman who had built her business on freedom and expression. The world had known for decades that Janet was in charge. It looked like someone else was in charge now. Fans couldn't help but wonder if this was the real life she wanted or if she had given up too much for love. At 50, Janet Jackson's pregnancy rocked the world. Find out the truth behind her sudden change in life and style, the pregnancy that shocked everyone. The sudden absence of Janet Jackson shocked everyone, but fans were not ready for what happened next. She told everyone out of the blue that she was pregnant at age 50. The internet went crazy. The news stories asked if it was even possible. Was it a miracle, fertility treatments, or a transfer that no one knew about? There was no way to be sure, and Janet wasn't answering. The joy turned into worry very quickly. Janet, who was once a worldwide star, disappeared totally. There were no acts, appearances, or statements. She had always kept to herself, but this was different. It was more than a break. It was a complete erase. There were rumors going around. Some people thought she had gone through a lot of hard fertility treatments, while others said she had a secret surrogate carrying the child. Janet Jackson was about to become a mother at a time when most women were becoming grandmas. It didn't matter how it happened. Fans were excited to see this new part of Janet's life, but they couldn't find her. Wissam tightened his grip behind closed doors. Sources close to her said he set strict rules for her pregnancy. She had to stay inside, avoid being seen by other people, and focus on being a mother. She couldn't leave the house while nursing, even after giving birth. The news started to wonder if Janet Jackson was really stuck. Janet was alone for months at a time. No events in public, interviews, or anything else. Wissam's new way of life was based on her strict beliefs and traditional ideals. He thought a mother should be devoted to her child and her home, not to being famous. A boy named Isa Almana was born to her on January 3, 2017. The world saw her new life for the first time. For Wissam, though, it wasn't just his son, it was his heritage. It was important to him that Isa grow up in his world, following his views and rules. Janet was no longer famous, but she now had to fight for her son's future, which was an even bigger war. Wissam cared about custom and power. Janet cared a lot about her freedom and her sense of self. The love story that looked so good at first was now coming apart. After a few months, she did something that no one saw coming. She broke up with him. The shocking breakup. People hadn't seen Janet Jackson in years, but when she quit her marriage out of the blue, everyone noticed. She left Wissam Almana only 3 months after giving birth. There will be no public statements or long interviews. There will be a complete break. Fans were shocked. How did it all happen so quickly? Behind the scenes, things were not at all like the fairy tale that most people thought they were. Insiders said Janet was unhappy and felt stuck in a life that wasn't hers. What began as a loving relationship had turned into a strict, regulated way of life. Wissam's standards shaped not only their home life but also everything she did. Janet had built her job around being strong and independent, but she has no power in this marriage. It was up to Wissam to decide what she wore, where she went, and who she talked to. She could no longer even handle her job. It was said that he didn't want her to act, go on tour, or go back to Hollywood. He saw her only as a wife and mother. The real surprise then came. Randy Jackson, Janet's brother, broke the silence. He made a rare public speech in which he said that Janet had been verbally abused for years. He didn't hide anything. He said she had been going through a lot of pain behind closed doors and was always feeling down. Everyone thought Janet had just decided to take a step back, but Randy's news made it sound like something much worse had happened. Several sources said that Wissam had full power over Janet's daily life as more information came out. He was said to have made it hard for her to leave the house by herself, told her how to dress, and kept her out of the public eye. He thought she would be a great wife if she followed the traditions he valued, but Janet was struggling to breathe. Wissam didn't take it lightly when she finally left. He was losing more than just his wife. He was also losing his son. Isa wasn't just family to him. He was also an asset. Janet knew that if she left Wissam, it would not only end their marriage, but it would also mean a fight for Isa's future. At first, Wissam tried to make peace. He asked Janet to change her mind, but she was set on what she wanted to do. A custody fight started when it was clear she wasn't going to come back. Wissam had the money, power, and legal right to fight. The thing that made Janet stronger, though, was her will to protect her son. Janet's fight for custody after her shocking breakup. How far will she go to protect her son from Wissam? The fight for custody. Though Janet Jackson had left her husband, she knew the real fight was still to come. The fight for Isa was the most important fight she had ever been in. Janet wanted to have main custody because she was afraid that Wissam would raise their son in a way that was very different from how she did things. During the marriage, she had already given up her job, her way of life, and her freedom. She didn't want to lose her son too. Wissam wasn't going to leave, though. He wanted to share care of Isa and have full access to her. He saw this as more than just parental rights. It was about power, custom, and legacy. His son was a part of the kingdom he had built. But Janet saw something else. She was afraid that Isa would grow up in a tight, controlled place, which was not at all what she wanted for him. Talks quickly turned into a court battle with a lot at stake. Even though Wissam thought Janet would give in, she didn't. It was against her will to raise Isa in Qatar or let him grow up following Wissam's rules. Behind closed doors, that choice caused a storm. Wissam fought back with all his strength because he was angry that Janet had said no. He was one of the richest guys in the Middle East, and he didn't care about money. He had access to the best lawyers, money, and power. But Janet was ready. To make sure she would stay the main mom, she hired the best lawyers. She wasn't just fighting for Isa's rights, she was fighting for her future as well. Wissam made the case that his son should be raised with strong ideals, structure, and discipline. Janet, on the other hand, thought Isa needed to be free, loved, and able to choose for himself. Their lives were very different, and neither of them was ready to give up. Both sides pushed for control as the court case went on for a long time. Wissam couldn't ignore Janet's one edge, though. She had been Isa's main caretaker since birth. She had been there for every important event and moment. That was the most important thing in the end. In the end, it was clear that Janet got custody. Isa would live with her and be cared for by her as a child. Wissam wasn't completely out of the picture, though. He was allowed to visit his son with supervision, which made sure he stayed in his life. Even more order was added when he hired a full-time nanny to be with Isa all the time. Even though Janet won, the fight hurt her. Now Isa had to deal with two very different worlds. One where his wealthy father lived in the Middle East, and another where his famous mother lived in the West. Would he become like his mother and love freedom and imagination as an adult? Or would his father's guidance make him follow a strict and traditional way of life? That question was still unsolved. Janet had done everything she could to keep her son close, though. Then she would decide what would happen to him. See how their son looks today. Janet Jackson kept her son out of the public eye for many years. Fans were eager to see Isa Almana because they wanted to know if he looked like his famous mother or his rich father. Then, on Father's Day 2017, Janet finally showed a very rare picture of Isa as a baby. The internet went crazy. Many people thought he looked like Michael Jackson because of his soft hair, bright eyes, and face. Some of his friends said they saw his mother's warmth, while others said they saw his father's strong features. The argument went on and on. Even though things were exciting, Janet stayed watchful. Her whole life had been in the public eye, and everyone had been looking at her. She wouldn't let Isa go through the same thing. There weren't many public events, and there weren't many updates on social media. To let him grow up in peace, she was set on it. But every once in a while, something new would come to light. What fans then found out shocked them to the core. Not only was Isa a normal kid, but he was also very good at singing. He really loved music even when he was a little kid. Janet told her that he wasn't just hearing, he was also playing. He learned to play the violin, drums, guitar, and piano by the time he was 3 years old. He wasn't pushed to be talented. He loved it, and so has every Jackson family member for many years. Then the most shocking thing came out. Isa could dance. Janet once said that her son could feel beat and move in ways that made her think of Michael. Fans were shocked. Could he be continuing the Jackson name? Janet didn't push him into the business even though he was good at it. She wanted him to have a stress-free life. Her life had changed because of her fame, and not always for the better. She was letting him have freedom that she had never had. Fans were still able to guess, though. Some people said that he looked exactly like Janet because he had her smile and eyes that showed emotion. Others thought he looked a lot like Wissam, with sharp features and a quiet calm about him. Every picture that got out added to the argument. Isa was growing up in two very different worlds, that much was clear. He grew up with Janet in a loving private home where music and freedom were always present. He lived a life of discipline, custom, and great wealth with Wissam. Which world would change him the most? Fans can only guess. But no matter how much he grows, everyone agrees on one thing. He is already a star. Janet's life after divorce is full of surprises. Her return to the stage and Isa's shocking talent leave fans speechless. Janet's life after divorce. Janet Jackson ended her marriage, but she didn't end her relationship with herself. She had been hidden for years, limited by rules that weren't her own. She was now going back to the world she used to rule. She came back to the stage in a way that was brave, strong, and hard to miss. When she first went away in quiet, the woman was back with a wardrobe that matched her fierce confidence. The simple clothes and careful looks were gone. Instead, she went back to her signature style, which included daring outfits, shows, and a voice that drew people in. It was exciting for her fans to see her act with the same fire that made her famous. It wasn't just about music. She was trying to prove something to herself. She had been controlled by someone else for years, but now she was in charge of everything. Even though her work was going well, her priorities had changed. Now Isa was at the center of everything. Janet changed her schedule so she could always be with her son. She used to be known for her world trips and tight schedules. She worked hard to give Isa a life of privacy and stability, which was different from her own youth when fame ruined everything. There were no planned photo ops with the paparazzi, red carpet performances, or social media attention. She kept him out of the public eye because she wanted him to grow up on his own terms. People around the world still couldn't stop guessing. Did Janet have a date? Would she get married again? There were many reports that she was dating different people, but she never confirmed or denied them. She didn't want to be the subject of rumors. Her main goals at the moment were to be a good mother and keep up her good work. She had worked too hard to let go again. She was stronger than ever and couldn't be stopped or broken. Could Isa be the next Jackson star? There is no fame for Isa Almana as he grows up. But one thing is for sure, singing is in his blood. He had a magic link with rhythm, instruments, and dance from a very young age. He plays music instead of just listening to it. With a love for the violin, drums, guitar, and piano, fans can't help but wonder, could he become the next Michael Jackson? Janet did everything she could to give him a regular private childhood and keep him from having to deal with the same problems she did, but she can't deny how talented he is. When you watch him play or move, you can't help but notice how much he looks like his famous uncle Michael Jackson. Will he become the next big name in entertainment like the world's best? Is he going to go in a separate direction? Time will tell. Janet may have left a controlling marriage, but she got something even better in return. Isa is her life's work and her greatest love. She will always protect her. Fans can't wait for the day he makes up his mind about the future. Will he take the stage, or will he never be in the spotlight again? His story is just beginning, no matter what happens. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing stories. Click on the next video popping up on your screen. You won't want to miss it.